Hi, I'm Julia Ham, President and CEO of the Smart Electric Power Alliance, and today I'm here with Diane Cooke, Vice President of Human Resources at Alliant Energy. Diane, thanks so much for joining me.
Great. Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, so as you know, we're doing this interview series on the role of utilities and social equity, and Alliant is doing a lot of great work in this space. So, I'd love to have you start by talking to us about what motivates Alliant Energy to focus on social equity issues.
Yeah, well, thanks, Julia. We really are a values-based organization. And one of our values is to care for others. And that to us means that together we create an environment where people feel they can bring their unique backgrounds, talents, and experiences to their fullest extent. And we know when people feel safe doing that, that's when we really get the best outcomes. So another value for us is to do the right thing. So our values guide our behaviors and our actions. So it's basically simple for us that focusing on social equity is really fundamental if we're going to be living our values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, having such clear values that everybody sort of sets expectations and really creates the culture that you're looking for. Well, so what were some of the ongoing diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives that Alliant has had in place for a while now, but also what are some of the new ones that you're undertaking in light of the recent focus on racial injustice?
Yeah, well, I'd like to actually start with, we've always focused on diversity and inclusion. But this year we made a very deliberate effort to expand that beyond diversity and inclusion to add that equity, to say our vision and our actions are really going to be about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for us, we really want to make sure all employees have what it takes to be successful at our organization, focusing on what's fair and recognizing that not everybody is at that same starting point. So an example of this is we created a pre-apprenticeship program. And that is truly an entry-level role and opportunity for individuals to get into careers in our energy delivery operations organization. And so we do the technical training. We give individuals the access to the skills and experiences to then hopefully graduate to our apprenticeship program. And this was something new we created, and we partnered with organizations like Urban League and the Wisconsin Workforce Development to really broaden out and help us find a more diverse demographic that hasn't always had that opportunity to get into our organization. And so I'd say we've also, another thing we do is discussions. We really think you have to start to talk about it. And this year in February, all of our executives went across the organization to 18 locations, and we partnered with other leaders, and we facilitated the discussion around unconscious bias. And that means even with us starting out kind of talking about our own bias, because we all have it, and to say for us to be aware of it, that's how we're going to make mindset change and action change. And then we've continued upon that. More recently, I'd say we've continued those discussions and focused a lot around listening and learning and understanding. And we have 6, and we've always had 6 very active and engaged employee resource groups. And our multicultural network has really stepped up and taken a leadership role recently with much of the focus around racial injustice and discrimination. And they've hosted a lot of these discussions that have had a significant attendance, kind of a pull and a draw from our employees, and some of the discussions have been our own employees being really open to share their experiences. Sometimes they brought in outside speakers and helped us understand the history of discrimination and what we can do about it. So it's been really, really impactful, and to spend those minutes, and sometimes it's uncomfortable minutes, putting yourself in that place, but to say we're going to spend minutes on it, and to have that, I'd say that ground sweeping, it's an empowered resource group that is doing this, and having majority, if not all of our executives attend many of these, not in a leadership role, but in a student learning and understanding role. So, and then we've expanded, we have a wonderful philanthropic effort through our foundation. And just recently we've expanded one of the criteria that we look at for how we donate and provide giving is we've expanded it to include equity and inclusion reform and community, education programs focused on creating equal rights for historically underrepresented groups. And then we're lending our voice outside the organization. Our CEO, John Larson, is part of the Business Roundtable, and he is part of a subcommittee focused on racial equity and justice in the areas of education and workforce. So we're making sure we know we have to do things within our organization and much more to do, things within our community and our industry, and then also lending ourselves to the broader business community. And it's about influencing change, but also for us to learn. We have to learn, and we'll bring some of that learning back and figure out what we can be doing different and better.
Well, shifting gears a little bit, I want to talk about, as we're going through this energy transition in our industry to a cleaner energy future, one of the things that Alliant recently announced was the closing of its Edgewater Generating Station by the end of 2022. So talk to me about the things the company is doing and planning to do to support the workers at that coal plant and also in the community where the coal plant is located.
Yeah, well, we are so proud of and value the men and women that have powered the Edgewater Generating Station for decades. And certainly part of our transition to cleaner energy is caring for our employees. So in Edgewater last year, we started having discussions with our employees about skill sets and exposing them to learning opportunities about other parts and careers within our organization and the community. So when we announced this year, our plans to close, they weren't surprised by it. We believe that transparency was important. However, it gave them the clarity that they really wanted and needed on a more general timeline. So then we could really start to have kind of really meaningful planning. So since then, on the day of the announcement, we had HR team members, plant and union leadership available to talk to employees. And since then, we've been having one-on-one discussion with every employee to really listen, and understand what matters to them, answer their questions, connect them to resources. And that's been sometimes things that are very overlooked, is because it's not a one size fits all. It's that kind of listening to what matters to each person, and saying, how do we then connect them to what's meaningful. And one example of this is we got feedback from employees in listening to them that they would like us to open up and be more open to some of the classes that they could get qualify for tuition reimbursement that might not be traditional classes we would have accepted. And so we listened to them and we acted upon their feedback. And so we've opened that up to those employees. So it's been very, very important how we treat them. And then, we know we have about 2 years left. So during that time, really preparing employees for what's next. It's one of the things I really think this industry does well is caring for our employees. And even though these transitions are hard, we know that this is impacting people's lives. We want to do everything we can to have that be a positive change in transition. And I think, this industry does it probably much better than other industries. So it's something the industry should be very, very proud of.
Absolutely.
But you would also ask me about the community. And, we have been, part of the community in Sheboygan for about a century. And so that will continue for us. We in the last 5 years, we've given about $250,000 in donations for in and around the community to organizations like the local United Way, Make Spirits Bright, Project Grill, and we plan to continue that support. And then in late May, we also announced a 150 megawatt solar site in the Sheboygan region. So some, economic development there. And then we are also, for the community, we are working with local leaders and a top consulting firm that has done major projects in the Sheboygan region to really imagine what's next for this site. Think about it's 265 acres along Lake Michigan. And so there's a very long and thoughtful process into saying, what should be next for this location. And if you look at our the Blackhawk Generating Station, when we had closed that, and it's now working with the community, it's been repurposed to a magnificent student center called the Powerhouse for Beloit College. So So, we're excited to see, listening and working with the community, what will be next, for the Edgewater Generating Station.
Yeah. Well, and so I don't want to end without talking about customers, I'd love to hear about some of the things that you're doing to make sure, really around the issue of energy access, right? How do you make sure your low income customers and disadvantaged communities have access to energy efficiency and clean energy as this transition unfolds?
Yeah, well, first of all, for us, regardless of how energy is generated, our purpose is to serve customers and build strong communities. So our transition from coal to cleaner energy, delivers upon this purpose. First of all, the environmental benefits, but then also solar and wind has, no fuel costs. It has lower ongoing maintenance. So we are the third largest owner-operator of regulated wind in the United States, and 34% of our energy is generated from renewables. So certainly many of our customers already are benefiting from, some of their energy from renewables right now. As I mentioned, our focus is on our purpose to serve customers, and so that really gives us the calling card to connect it across multiple avenues in our organization. Our philanthropic efforts through our foundation, one of the things we focus on is alleviating food insecurity and hunger and housing. And so one of the things we've recently done is, in our partnership and our work with local food banks, is we now have provided education on weatherization and do-it-yourself energy efficiency kits that can help lower utility bills for our customers. So they'll distribute it when people go to the food bank to get food. So we've distributed, I believe now, about 1,100 of those kits so far. And as we focus on new products, new services, new solutions, at the forefront of that is always customer affordability. That is always front of mind as we're thinking about what we're bringing to our customers.
Great. Well, we are running low on time here, but I wanted to give you a moment to just take a step back and, as the person within the company accountable for people, if you're giving advice to other utility executives, what would be the one piece of advice to give regarding from your experience on ensuring that you've got social equity, again, sort of across the various areas that the utility is responsible for?
Yeah, first of all, I would definitely say to be vulnerable and be open, to really learning and understanding. I think sometimes when you become an executive, you think learning is, top down, when quite honestly, it's up, down, and around us, in and outside the organization. And so that willingness to be vulnerable about what you don't know and what you're learning, and to be that ally. I talked to a leader outside actually the industry once, and he said, I don't represent diversity myself, so I don't feel like I should say anything or I have the right to stand up. And he said, until somebody told me, absolutely, we need you. We need your voice to say something. Mm-hmm. So I would say be that ally, do something, say something. And even when there might be discomfort, that's how we're going to get change. And I always tell people, if I'm not feeling a little uncomfortable, I'm probably not growing. Yeah. So to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because this is a journey and it's going to need every single one of us, not a department, not a title, but all of us to make that change. So I would say absolutely be that change.
That is great advice, Diane. Thank you so much for your leadership within Alliant, within the industry, and for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, Julie. I really appreciated our time.
Thanks for watching. To see more interviews with other utility executives, please visit our website at sepapower.org or visit our YouTube channel.